90s, baby!
Everyone who's played Pokemon knows some Pokemon are rarer than others. Not every Pokemon will show up in your first few steps of grass or every single step in a cave. But did you know some Pokemon were so rare, Nintendo and Game Freak themselves never knew they were even in the game until just weeks before the game was finished? Because, believe it or not, that did happen. My man, Shigeki Morimoto, revealed to Game Freak, the developers of Pokemon if you didn't know, he had created and programmed the Pokemon Mew into the game without anyone knowing just 2 weeks before the original Pokemon games were finished. With no way to obtain Mew in-game due to the fact it was added so late and not intended to be in the game at all, Mew became the first distribution Pokemon, starting Pokemon distribution events that happen all around the world to this day. Today's events are nothing like the exclusivity event Pokemon had in the day. If you had one of these event Pokemon, it was serious bragging rights. You couldn't just turn on Wi-Fi or go to GameStop or EB Games or pay to get a Mew with the Pokeball Plus. Neither of these existed back in the 90s, baby! Woo! Let me take you back to show you the first Pokemon distribution events. But first, let me tell you some interesting facts about Mew. Mew was the first Pokemon trademark ever to be filed. Though the spelling varied a little bit in Japanese, Mew was filed for trademark in May 9th, 1990. That's 28 years ago, and was registered March 31st, 1994, 3 years before even Pocket Monsters was registered in December 26 of 1997.
If you ain't first, you're last.
The first ever Mew distribution event happened 2 full years before anywhere else outside of Japan would even know what Pokemon was. Sorry, Pocket Monsters were. Mew was initially revealed in a Japanese magazine called Cora Cora, which still reveals Pokemon leaks and news to this day. In 1996 of May, which was released in April, if you know how magazines do that future thing and all, in the May issue, they revealed lucky Pokemon fans would mail in a slip for a chance to be chosen to receive a Mew on their Pokemon Red or Green cartridge. Yes, that's right, kids. You had to fill out a paper slip in the magazine and get stamps from the store and go and deposit it into a mailbox by hand just to have a chance to get a Mew. 78,000 Japanese fans applied and only 20 people were chosen to get a Mew. That's right, for 5 whole months, only 20 people in the world had a Mew. Talk about holy grail. Imagine having those 20 games on eBay nowadays. What would those listings even look like? Winners would mail their cartridge to the address and Mew would be put onto their game and mailed back. No one would see how Mew was traded to their game until Space World 97 held in Makahara Messe in Chiba, Japan, where players connected their cartridge to a Mew machine. That's right, a Mew machine. Very little information is known on Mew machines, with no sightings of these machines to this day, 21 years later. Other than being used at distribution events held by Nintendo and Game Freak, no one has seen these machines to this day. Mew machines seem to be a TV monitor connected to a modded Super Nintendo with a Game Boy player attachment, where the player would put their game in the machine and a video would play of Mew going into the player's Game Boy game. Like the animation shown when trading over link cable, without another Pokemon being traded back. It is believed you have to have an open slot on your party for the machine to transfer a Mew. This isn't uncommon in distribution events, as the Jirachi bonus disc in Pokemon Coliseum also requires an open party slot and displays a video of Jirachi entering the user's game. Space World 1997. Again, Pokemon fans had the chance to send an application to get a Mew. This time, 100,000 people would receive a Mew, and they would even extend the date past the exhibition itself, November 24th of 1997. This would mark the first event where Mew machines were used. The infamous Mew machine would make an appearance yet again at Space World 99 with only 50,000 Mews being distributed this time around. CoroCoro were not done with their extremely exclusive Pokemon events, but this time they would distribute Flying Pikachu and Surfing Pikachu in November of 1997, where again only 20 of each of these Pikachus were sent out. Fast forward to the first English event and the first time Mew was distributed outside of Japan. PokeTour Mew distribution, September 18th to October 9th, 1999. Another rare sighting of the use of Mew machines, and for the first time used outside of Japan. Players went to various stops in Australia between the two tours, the Pokemon Red Tour and the Pokemon Blue Tour, to coordinate with the game's release. Australian players were also given the chance to obtain the Mew by mailing in their carts to Nintendo of Australia, saying Mew 151 Pokemon download, P.O. Box 804, Scoresby 3179. Finally, North America got their first distribution event, and it was through Nintendo Power. But wait, what? A Pikachu? 1,000 Pikachus knowing Surf. But if you won and you didn't send in your game card, you also had the chance to get this sweet shirt. But hey, at least the shirt's battery couldn't run dry and be wiped clean. Unless your mom bleached it, of course. Pokemon League Nintendo Training Tour 1999 Mew. That's right, Mew, baby. The first Mew in the United States given out from October 9th to November 7th, 1999. In these days, in America. But if you couldn't make these dates, back in the day that is, Nintendo Power held a promotion giving out 1,000 Mews to Canada as well for the first time. Yeah, Canada, baby! And again, you got a sweet shirt if you entered without a game. These Mews didn't have standard set IVs like the Mew distributions prior. So, I'm not 100% sure, don't quote me on this, but I think there would be a chance that you could get this Pokemon shiny if you transferred to Generation 2. Now it's time for the most famous Mew event. As a kid, I remember hearing tales of this Mew event on the schoolyard, that some kids actually got a Mew. And no, not from behind the truck, from Toys R Us. The first 1,500 customers to each store across the United States and Canada received a special Peel and Win card. Only 200 of these 1,500 cards would obtain Caught Me text underneath, which allowed fans to receive a Mew. But wait, not from a Mew machine, traded from a Toys R Us employee. In their hands they held a silver Game Boy Color with a Pokemon Blue safety taped to the console, containing nothing but full PC boxes full of Mews. That's right, poor man's Mew machine. Little is known about these consoles exist today, as Toys R Us were instructed to send them back to Nintendo to be destroyed. Pokemon 2000 Stadium Tour Mew. The first time a Mew machine would be used in North America. At this event, people who attended could connect their game to a Mew machine, like all the other events, yeah, I know, but this one would have a nice twist for attendees. They would receive a certificate of authenticity for their Mew. Yeah, that's right, a piece of paper that authenticized their Mew. That's right, authenticized. The certificate of authenticity for their Mew came complete with the Pokemon ID written on the certificate of each Pokemon obtained legitimately. Each Pokemon in the Pokemon game has their own unique ID number. This isn't only done to make sure that the Pokemon was legitimately caught in-game, but also so that no two Pokemon are identically alike. Pokemon Patrol Mew, distributed to participants at the N64 Ultimate Games Tour across Canada. Now this event really gets me. May 20th to September 4th, 2000. When I first researched these events, I always looked to see if I could have been able to obtain the distribution back in the day. It consists of me always looking for major cities nearby, like Toronto. Lo and behold, not only did they have an event in my own city at the time, but at the most fun, amazing place to go as a kid, Sports World. It was my jam to my toast, and also where I attended summer camp. And if that wasn't bad enough, on my 6th birthday, exactly 1 year after I got my first Pokemon game, my mom mustn't have loved me. She didn't even take me. Or, she probably just didn't know like most parents would. There you have it. Pokemon distribution events were a lot more difficult to attend back in the early stages of the Pokemon games, but did spawn some of not only the rarest event Pokemon of all time, but some of the rarest obtainable Pokemon of all time. Mew machines would be repurposed into Celebi machines during Generation 2 before vanishing off the existence of the Earth. I didn't even scratch the surface on how many Generation 1 events took place, like when Mew stole Christmas in Germany, or the second wave of Cora Mews given to 100 of 800,000 applicants they received from fans, or the Pokemon Stamp Pokemon, Rapidash, and Fearow included in some of the Generation 1 events spanning from 1997 to 2016, with China receiving the games in its first version of Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow in the last few years. If you are interested in learning some more about Pokemon events and distributions, check out Bulbagarden, who are a huge help in finding the information for this video. If you like this video and you want more Pokemon content, please make sure to subscribe and to stay tuned for more Pokemon facts and everything Pokemon here.